Welcome to the World News. To give you today's top stories around the globe, I'm Randolf Jamias. Leading the news, France and Germany called for a compromise Thursday at an EU summit on the bloc's hotly disputed trillion-euro budget after British Prime Minister David Cameron turned up in the Brussels threatening to wield his veto. Minutes earlier, German Chancellor Angela Merkel also called for a compromise, but admitted that the deal between the bloc's 27 member states might be hard to achieve in the two-day summit aimed at reaching an agreement on the 2014-2020 budget. The two leaders were speaking to reporters ahead of individual confessionals held by EU President Herman Van Rompuy, with all 27 leaders before the summit officially opened. Much of Europe is in or close to recession, and austerity-driven nations are demanding huge cuts in EU spending to match belt-tightening at home. The so-called cohesion funds, billions of euros outlaid each year to the EU's newer and poorer entrants in the south and east of the continent so they can catch up with richer neighbors, are central to the battle at the Brussels summit. Meanwhile, Japan's nuclear regulatory body has begun working on a new set of guidelines, issuing evacuation orders in the events of nuclear accidents.
The Nuclear Regulation Authority met on Thursday to discuss how to finalize the new evacuation guidelines by the end of the year. Also under review is when to instruct people to take iodine tablets as a precaution against thyroid damage. The experts confirmed that Japan will use standards set by the International Atomic Energy Agency as a guideline. In the Fukushima Daiichi accident, the earthquake and tsunami knocked out part of a network for monitoring radiation levels in the environment. NRA members also discussed the necessity of a system able to forecast levels of radiation in the environment and support monitoring efforts.
Heading to Africa now, a decade ago, Ethiopia had the highest number of new HIV infections in the continent. That was then. Today, the country has a reason to celebrate. As the report by the UNAIDS, a remarkable decline in the number of new infections alongside Malawi and Botswana. Here's more details.
Meet Yeshi Tadese, who has tested HIV positive over 13 years ago. At the time, patients in Ethiopia suffered stigma and discrimination. It was a torturous life. HIV/AIDS-related death soared and sordid, new infections. The situation is fast improving. Ethiopia has now shown the world that it is possible to minimize the prevalence rate from its double-digit record to 4.2 in cities and 0.6 in rural areas. HIV/AIDS-related deaths have gradually reduced too. Just how has this been achieved? The UN's latest assessment on global HIV/AIDS shows there has been a further drop in new infections among children. There were 330,000 new infections in children last year. The figure is 24% lower than in 2009. According to UNAIDS, Ethiopia, Malawi and Botswana witnessed a significant drop in new infections. Today, people like Yeshi can also access free medical services. She says life has changed for the better.
Now everyone understands the causes of the disease unlike before. And everywhere you go, all health centers provide you with free medical service. The death rate now is unbelievably low in the country. I think this is a huge change.
Despite these gains, sub-Saharan Africa remains the most severely affected part of the world.
Now in Mexico, Mexican soldiers destroyed a methamphetamine laboratory in Jalisco on Wednesday. Security forces said the lab, hidden in a cave, could produce 500 kilos of methamphetamines a month, and they have discovered 37 of these labs in the region so far this year. Jalisco, a state northwest of the capital, home to the country's second city, Guadalajara, is, according to the Mexican authorities, the territory of a drug cartel called New Generation, affiliated with Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, the country's most powerful trafficker. At the action scene were Lieutenant Colonel Leopold Corona and Mexican Army, who said that the operation in the labs could be just for a short time and then moved somewhere else to avoid being found. In the U.S., Thousands of people lined the streets of New York for the Thanksgiving parade. Joyous music and fabulous floats of different themes filled the streets as the spectators cheered and looked on with their own ways of celebrating the Thanksgiving Day. In sports, the best of the European Tour have hit Dubai for the season-ending World Tour Championship, and the event is offered to top 60 finishers on the order of merit, and it's also the first time to all 12 of Europe's Ryder Cup heroes have been on the same field since their stunning win over the United States back in September. And Thursday's first rounds are a few of the members up to European got low and end the day near the top of a very crowded leaderboard.
Shortly before the start of play, but it would soon clear, and the Jumeirah Estates course played perfectly. Lee Westwood won this tournament 3 years ago, and the Englishman well placed after an opening round at 67. One stroke better off was Gonzalo Fernandez Castano of Spain and Scotland's Mark Warren. Both had very solid opening days. The pair both went around in 6 under 66. Order of merit winner Rory McIlroy had a quiet front nine, just a birdie at the second there, but the world number one put down a great back nine. He went 5 under coming home. He's 6 under and a tie for second place. The leader, though, after the opening 18 holes in Dubai is Luke Donald. The 34-year-old world number 2 made the turn in 3 under 33. He'd go one better on the back nine. He would sign for 7 under 65 to take a one-stroke lead at the end of the first day of the World Championship in Dubai. Donald looking to make it back-to-back wins after his win in Japan last weekend. That saw him pass Tiger for world number 2. Here now is look at the packed leaderboard after day one coming off the win in Japan. Donald remained hot on Thursday to take the lead. Northern Ireland's McIlroy joined second with the Scot Mark Warren, the Spaniard Fernandez Castano, Westwood of England, Freddie Anderson, head of Sweden, Irishman Padraig Harrington, Germany's Martin Keimer, Scott Richie Ramsey, and Louis Oosthuizen from South Africa all sit tied for third place.
Well, I feel very confident. As I said, my caddy and I, we worked hard on a few things last week, and I started to see improvement every day in my ball striking, and today was further improvement. So I'm excited about it, and I'm really putting well. I feel like I have the speed down and the line as well. So it's always nice when you feel confident about making putts.
Yeah, I played well. I needed to stay patient. On the front nine, I was driving the ball really well and putting myself in good positions to attack flags, and wasn't really taking advantage of it. So it was nice to get it together on the back nine and make a few birdies and climb the leaderboard.
For our last story, the stars are out in Germany tonight. It's the award ceremony for the Bambies, one of the country's most prestigious prizes. Represented people doing quietly good in the world. Here's a peek at the awards night.
International celebrities like the singer Celine Dion. It's the Canadian's third Bambi, and this time she's won it in the entertainment category. The British-Irish boy band One Direction are also being honored. They've come a long way since they won a 3rd place on a TV casting show. Now they're topping the charts in 32 countries.
We have more news to come. Please stay with us.